Meet Pam Michalski, a Mount Laurel, New Jersey resident who has proved that it really does only take one person to make a difference. After driving her daughter to school every morning for 4 years, Pam would pass a heartbreaking scene. Joanne Stratton struggling to get her son Dominic, who uses a wheelchair, onto the school bus as impatient drivers honked and cursed at the bus. At first, Pam and her children left gifts in front of their house, but finally, this mom worked up the courage to introduce herself and learned the true hardships the Stratton family faced. Having moved from a nearby town to Mount Laurel, New Jersey, for the school services available to Dominic, who was born prematurely with cerebral palsy, Dave Stratton, a warehouse manager, and Joanne could afford only a 600-square-foot home that was originally a hen house. It was so cramped that Dominic, who was 8 years old at the time, slept in a crib and could barely maneuver. Touched by their dilemma, Michalski left a note offering her assistance. After Joanne called back to accept her offer, it was then that Pam knew she was also going to need some more help. She then reached out to a local friend, Lori Leonard, who happened to be very active within their Mount Laurel community. The rest is history.
I first heard about Dominic's house from a friend of mine, Pam Michalski. So we wrote something up and we all sent it out to, Pam and I sent it out to people that we knew via email. And the response was absolutely overwhelming. To get the community involved and get everything together, after the email went out, people wanted to help. And we thought the best way to do that would be to have a community meeting. So probably a week later, we had a meeting and we had over 200 people show up at that meeting and they wanted to help. They didn't want to do a gift basket. They didn't want to do an addition. They wanted to demolish the house and rebuild a completely new home for this family.
When I first heard about Dominic's house, I really wanted to be a part of it and do something to help. I didn't know what that could be, and it grew tremendously, but I just thought it was a great idea and how wonderful to help. And then they started about collecting money, so I said, okay, I do bookkeeping. I can help you with the bookkeeping of it.
We had people sign up, so everybody in there brought different skills. We had contractors, we had people that wanted to help do fundraising, we had people that would help build the website. So it really was incredible to have the community come together right at that meeting, and we basically had our people that were going to help with the project.
It was amazing how the project worked. When we first started talking, we started talking about how could we possibly do this. And with that, doors just started opening, and we had everything come to us. Every time we talked about something and how we were going to do that, someone would make a phone call or two, and before you knew it, someone was offering to supply whatever it was.
I remember standing with Pam and Janice and Shirley as the house was being demolished with a giant bulldozer, and knowing that we now have to build a new house. It's no longer like, wouldn't it be nice? Isn't this a great idea? It was like, okay, Pam, now we have to really do this. One of the biggest helps was the John Canuso, the Canuso Builders, because in our mind we thought it was a great idea, but we really had no idea what was involved with permits and variances and just everything involved in demolishing a house that already had a mortgage on it and getting funding for it. So thankfully John Canuso pitched in and helped us to get some of the skilled trades that we needed.
We had a lot of fundraisers. They were constant. The gala was huge. We had a lot of people come to the gala, and that was a tremendous fundraiser. I think we had close to 400 people that came.
So some of the bigger fundraisers were the Mount Laurel Rotary. They did a golf outing, and all the proceeds came to Dominic's house. And I remember them presenting a check to us for like over $20,000. So that was huge. Just random people would come and knock on my door with checks. And I'll never forget this one doctor in town knocked on my door, and he said, "Are you Lori from Dominic's house?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Here's a check for $4,500. I'm gonna give it to you, but you have to promise me that when the house is built, my son and I can come and feel the walls of the house and see where our donation went." And they did. They came before even the grand opening. They got in early and they felt, he and his son felt the walls of the house.
It was a year after we started. We started in November of '09, and then in November of 2010, we were presenting the house. And that same week was when we were at Oprah's Favorite Things. And the timing was unbelievable. That was kind of an ending, and then that following Saturday, we presented the house to them and for them to move in. And to think that all of that happened in a year, it was a tremendous amount of work that was made so much easier from Mount Laurel pulling together, as well as people beyond Mount Laurel helping out. It was totally overwhelming.
So the day of the grand opening was amazing. It was, it was our own personal little extreme home makeover. We didn't shout and move that bus, but we had the Lenape High School cheerleaders running, with a parade down the street, and hundreds of people lined the street, and the fire department was there, and we had a big red ribbon, and everybody gave their speeches, and to cut that ribbon and hand the keys over to the family was just, the best feeling.
I just remember the day of the event that Dominic was going to first come into his new house, and I'm telling you, the feeling was just, I couldn't have been more excited. I think I was shaking because I was so excited, nervous. All I wanted for this family was a better life for Dominic. At one point in this whole process, I reached out to Extreme Makeover, because it's when Extreme Makeover was real big, and I let them know what was going on and what we were doing. And it was before we started anything. Asked them if they would be able to help us out, because maybe a Friday to do an Extreme Makeover, and more or less the answer was no, they couldn't help us out. After, I guess, enough publicity got out, and we already had our laborers, we already had the communities involved, we already had our events, we raised all our money. We got a call from Extreme Makeover that they wanted to take over the project. I said, you know what, no, I'm not letting them take it over. Now, I want to show people that it takes a community to help each other out. It takes people to help each other. It doesn't take a TV show, and I want to make sure that this family can stay in their house, and it's not going to be over and above what they can afford or what they can keep up with. When I drive by their house 5.5 years later, I feel really proud that we as a community did this for them, and they're still in there, and I think they're going to be in there an awful long time.
Pam, unlike many people, Pam drove by that house and she stopped. She saw that there was a need and she stopped. And a lot of people see needs all over the place every day, and they just turn their head and they continue on with whatever's important in their life at that given moment. But Pam stopped, and she made a difference to 3 people, to the 4 trustees, and to an entire community. One person, Pam, made that difference. And that to me is the biggest takeaway ever.